finish at 5:30. You are the only one. Yes. You are going to be the first, Chris, okay?
I am I? Oh, right. Okay.
Because you have the taxi already booked. Right. It's better, okay? So it's okay over there.
Okay. Thank you. That's very kind.
Okay. I'm fine with it. If there is no other one with having the same.
No, Eva is staying, me I'm staying, and I'm substituting Maša because Maša is not sick, and Mathias I think is staying, so I don't think, and Ioannis is there. So let's go in this way, okay?
So disappear only if necessary.
Okay, whenever you want, we can start. Please have a seat. We are going to start and to finish our first day with the last session on corridor projects, and then I give the floor to the moderator, Uwe SONDERMANN from Combi Consult. You know already him. So.
You know me already. I had my opportunities to speak. I would like to continue speaking. I have a big moderation concept on top of my table. I want to fully perform it. On the other hand, we are a little bit behind the schedule. I'm a railway man. I'm working according to schedule.
Yes,
so we skip the moderations concept and will immediately go with the first presentation done by Chris Rowland of MDS Transmodal. He will present to us the Atlantis project. Chris, please do it.
Good afternoon. So it was originally going to be Mike Garratt and me, but Mike couldn't make it, so here I am on my own. We're consultants, so we have worked a lot on Atlantis and its previous projects, but I can't actually speak for the Atlantis project itself, so some of these views will be personal. The reason why I'm here is simply that as WiderMoS comes to a successful end, Atlantis is literally today just starting in earnest with a kick-off meeting, and so none of the partners could be here today. So as I say, we've had a very long history with this concept of trying to develop motorways the sea type services along the Atlantic arc. And you can see the geography there from Ireland and Britain to the western France and to Portugal. We'll return to that map a little bit later. But we started scarily about 20 years ago looking at this concept on carrying out Atlantic arc studies, particularly focused on demand. More recently, though, we've been looking at the economic case for this kind of service, which is linking relatively peripheral regions of the Europe around the outside of the economic core of the European Union. And of course, that creates particular problems, because if you want to have a service from one region to another, there may not be enough traffic from those individual regions to justify filling a ship, which is what you're trying to do here. You continually got to think about having enough critical mass to fill the ship. I also had the dubious honour of writing the Connecting Europe Facility application for the Atlantis project, which was not because of the project, but because of the process, was quite tough. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the Atlantis project, but also in the context of this corridor itself. Last year we carried out an exercise looking at market sizes and market shares for motorways, the sea services or short sea shipping services, simply because we'd got the impression that people were not quite clear how much traffic short sea shipping services had and what the market share was of intra-European traffic. So we carried out this exercise. I think the figure quoted of 40% earlier for intra-European traffic was quoted. That's about right. We concluded that ourselves. And what we found was that in general terms, the short sea maritime bulk traffic volumes have been declining in the last few years, but the unitized volumes, RoRo and Lola services, were increasing marginally. And overall, the balance of those two effects meant the short sea maritime market share was growing marginally in tonnage terms. The graph there, I hope you can see it, it's a little bit faded at the top, but the grey parts of the columns are non-maritime modes, so particularly road and rail, and then the green is the maritime. The dark green at the bottom is accompanied road haulage, which is, accompanied ro-ro traffic, which of course is sometimes good from a short sea shipping point of view, an environmental point of view, but is sometimes not so good if it's taking the shortest possible crossing. And those crossings are particularly important in the corridor I'm looking at, because that means the short straits between Dover and Calais, or the Channel Tunnel, if you're going between Britain and the continent, or the shortest crossings across the Irish Sea, if you're going between Ireland and Britain. We're economists, so we are less focused on the IT side. We're much more focused on the cost of transport, in fact. And again, we carried out an exercise about looking at traffic volumes and the potential in cost terms for motorways of the sea services throughout Europe. You can see on the left-hand side, on the y-axis, is the cost per unit, so a trailer or a 40-foot container. And on the bottom, the distance travelled. And the analysis showed that for unit cost shipping, it could be cost-effective over about 750 kilometres if it was just substituting a door-to-door road transport haul, or 1,250 kilometres for the direct road haul, or 750 kilometres if you had to include a short crossing, say the Dover Straits. And when you look at the volumes of traffic, you find that there are very significant volumes of traffic that could shift to motorways of the sea type services. We estimated about 17% of the market could achieve a saving of at least 200 euros per unit. Because there are all these arguments about, well, it's going to be slower by sea, it's less frequent, will it be as reliable because of the weather as direct road haulage? So we're allowing a 200 euro difference in cost, because that's the advantages you can get from the economies of scale from shipping. And when you look at the corridor we're particularly interested in, we looked at what are the prospects for trade growth on this corridor. And it's pretty good. We think this is based on trend analysis for the last sort of 15 years with a weighting towards the most recent years. We think trade growth could, up to 2020, could grow by about 3.1% per annum, which is faster than most other corridors. And of course, this corridor is dominated by accompanied trucks. 85% of the traffic carried on this corridor is in accompanied trucks. The remainder, some rail, but mainly relatively infrequent low-load container services. So when you put the traffic growth forecast, along with the potential for switching long-distance road haulage to motorways as the sea services, and therefore generating quite clear environmental benefits, you think this has got to be a good idea. We looked at this in 1993, and we still think it's a good idea. But of course, there are very clear environmental benefits, but no one is going to use this service unless there are commercial benefits for all the stakeholders. And now we come on to the sort of the conundrum of how these commercial benefits can be achieved through motorways of the sea, where there is no longer so much of a focus on directly subsidizing shipping lines as there was in Marco Polo, for example. That direct way is being regarded as anti-competitive, and therefore the focus has switched, particularly in the context of 10T, to infrastructure for motorways of the sea, and that means ports. Now, ports, perhaps in the sense of port authorities, have a huge amount to benefit from a commercial point of view through attracting new motorways of the sea services. But if you're a port authority, you're a little bit removed from the customers of the shipping lines who would come to your port, and therefore it's a little bit more difficult for you to be proactive. The port communities benefit significantly from new services, clearly. stevedores and local road hauliers and so on. And of course the wider population benefits through the reduced environmental impacts. The shipping lines, however, face very significant startup risks. The ships are currently very expensive, and it can be very risky to start a new service in the first few years, simply because you need to build up the traffic, and the customers are thinking, is this, if I switch my traffic to this service, is it still going to be here in a year's time? Europe has been a bit of a graveyard of new services which have failed, so it's very risky. And the shipping lines would argue that inertia rules, because we're taking a lot of risk here, but are we going to actually achieve the rewards that we deserve? So one of the key things which Atlantis is going to be looking at is, where does the balance lie between the risks and rewards between shipping lines and ports? And what can ports do specifically to reduce those risks? And how can they achieve these benefits? The ports could themselves, in certain circumstances, operate shipping lines. I think in some European countries that may not be legal. But in the UK, for example, ports such as Peel Ports own shipping lines, and they work around the fact that there's a risk that their company competes with their customers. Is there a way of ports guaranteeing cargo for the new shipping line in some way or other, or guaranteeing revenue? And can they try to help the shipping line by capturing traffic through port-centered distribution? So simply having developing distribution parks, attracting customers to a really good location, and therefore helping to provide traffic for the shipping lines. And Atlantis, among other things, is going to attempt to address these challenges and try and find solutions. So moving on to Atlantis itself, who are the partners? The partners, the lead partner is the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Brest, who operate the Port of Brest. The other partners are Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, which is a public sector body but has responsibility for an increasing range of competences, and started with transport, particularly passengers, but also increasingly freight. And then the Port of Leix-Ues, who are part of the WiderMoS project. The project is a study with a pilot action, so it doesn't go as far as actually launching a service. However, the objectives of the study are to make all the necessary preparations for the launch of new RoRo and LoLo motorway services along the Atlantic coast. And that includes looking at investments at the three ports. It's a pretty tight timescale. There were quite a lot of activities started in 2014 and early this year, but there's an acceleration of the work now, and the project needs to finish by the end of next year. So the geography. I agreed completely with José's comment earlier about it's dangerous to put lines on a map if you're, particularly if you're a policymaker. But here we are focused on a particular corridor. And the partners are Liverpool, Brest and Leix-Ues, as you'd expect. That's where the big blue lines are. And there are also opportunities, well, that we will be actively looking at intermodal connections to extend the hinterlands of the motorways of the services inland. There's potential from Liverpool into the Midlands, into Scotland, across the Pennines. Brest has its own regional hinterland, but it won't be, but it will need and want to extend its hinterland towards Paris and down towards Lyon as well. And there's an existing rail freight service in Leix-Ues towards the Lisbon area as well. And then there are the other focus is that we will be wanting to, or the project will be wanting to, look at stakeholders in other parts of the corridor, including Ireland, both Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, and northern Spain as well. We put Belfast and Dublin in there essentially because Peel Ports, who owns the Port of Liverpool, already have services to Belfast and Dublin. Another map. I think this map has been seen on every single presentation today. It's becoming as famous as the London Underground map. The Port of Brest has added a dotted line there for its own purposes. And I think the only thing I would say on this slide is that this corridor is in a sense running in parallel with the Atlantic corridor. All the core network corridors are land-based, even if they have ports at both ends. So this corridor, this Motors to the Sea corridor, if you like, would be running in parallel with the Atlantic corridor and would allow traffic to bypass part of the North Sea Mediterranean corridor, particularly the more congested areas, arguably around the short straits, southern England and the Benelux areas. So, as I say, the project has just started. There's a lot more detail I could put on this slide, but at this stage it's probably easy just to give you a taste of what the activities are going to be. There's going to be quite a lot of network development in the sense of a network of companies and people who, as you know, the freight industry is very people-based still. The idea being to develop a community of people who have an interest in operating and using and benefiting from these services. That network development will focus particularly in the hinterlands of the three ports, but will also be extended to Ireland and northern Spain, for example. Activity 2 has already been discussed in the presentation, or the second to last presentation before coffee, so I won't speak about that too much, particularly as it's completely beyond my competence. Suffice to say, this extension, moving on from the WiderMoS project for LexUS. Activity 3 is development of an Atlantis operational plan, which is all a plan for everything that needs to be done in order to launch the services, from physical things like what is the schedule going to be, what's the timetable going to be, what are the ships going to be, but also things like this issue of the legal and financial structure which will allow ports to be involved in the launch of motorways, the sea services. There are some ideas around and there that have been developed already. Finally, moving into what infrastructure is required, some in the ports, but probably a greater focus on hinterland infrastructure, particularly by rail, and also the potential for inland waterway transport. And then there's the final activity, project coordination and dissemination, the usual opportunities to meet up and disseminate information. And there'll be 3 sort of mini conferences in each region, and then an international conference in Liverpool at the International Festival of Business in June 2016, and finally a policy conference in Brussels. So final slide. Short sea shipping, as we've said, plays a major role in European freight transport, but it's been completely, well, not completely, but it's been pretty hidden from view. And we felt that was partly because people seem to be struggling to try and put numbers on the role it plays. So far, the initiative has largely depended on shipping lines, which is right and proper in many ways. But the problem has been that there's inertia because there's such a big imbalance for the shipping lines between the risks of starting a service and actually achieving a return. As I said, we think there is significant potential for a switch of particularly accompanied road haulage along the Atlantic arc to motorways of the sea style services. And the key to encouraging this switch is getting all the interested parties sharing in the commercial benefits. It's the commercial side which, from our point of view, perhaps as economists, is absolutely crucial to this. and effectively creating new economic models that reflect the available opportunities to carry this traffic. It's great that these services would secure sustainability in the sense of environmental benefits, but that won't occur, as other people have said today, without commercial sustainability. And I haven't been able to go into great detail on this today, but this is the commercial sustainability and the link between ports and shipping lines, which will be the key challenge for the Atlantis project over the next 2 years or so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris, for your presentation. It shows that you are at least a good consultant. It was a perfect analysis of the past development. It was a good acquaintance of the present challenges, and then you handed over to the commercial partners of your project to provide us with solutions to all this project. At least you made us curious to follow the project online and in these 2 meetings you mentioned, so that we will be informed about the results and whether you and the partners have been successful in providing study results in such a way that there will be a commercial follow-up for these kind of activities. Now we are coming already to the next speaker, which is Mathias LINDSTRÖM of Kvarken Council, so on the northern side of the metro map of the European corridors. He will speak about the Kvarken link, and he will himself present where this takes place.
Thank you. Is this working?
Should be.
This is not. Yep. Thank you, everybody, and thank you WiderMoS project for having me here. It's late in the afternoon, so I won't keep you long, and I won't go into details about the project. We have a phenomenal website where you can look into the details of the project, what we have done so far. I will talk a little bit about how we can use motorways of the sea to connect Northern Europe to the rest of the world and also to Europe. When we talk about Northern Europe, many of you think of this. No people, ice, and extremely cold. And José himself has experienced this. But northern part of Europe is much more than this. And I want to tell you how important it is to connect also northern part of Europe to the rest of Europe and the world. As the moderator said, I'm Mathias LINDSTRÖM, work for the Kvarken Council. It's a cross-border organization between Umeå and Vasa up in the north. But the last 3 years I have been working with this Midway Alignment project as the coordinator of it. What is then Midway Alignment? Midway Alignment is a TNT finance project that aims to expanding and strengthening the connection between strong, fast-growing, internationally important regions and connect peripheral regions to the rest of Europe and the European transport network. We also want to develop and test new innovation by doing this, and also enabling economic development, bringing the regions closer to each other and to the other regions within the EU. Many of you people might not know, but in the Vasa region where I live myself, we have one of the strongest energy clusters in Northern Europe that employs almost 15,000 people. And on the Swedish side, we have also a very developed industry and also a lot of raw material. Amongst others, 90% of all iron ore comes from northern part of Sweden. So it's highly developed areas, but even though they are highly developed, they also need to be connected, and that's what we are working with. Because that's not only beneficial for the regions themselves or for the countries themselves, but also for the whole of Europe. And especially during times like this, when we're in economic recession, it's even more important. If we go into some details what we want to do, we want to design a new environmental friendly ferry for passengers and cargo to ensure the connection between these regions. We already have a ferry, but it's old and outdated. And we want to develop and promote innovative solutions, both technical, operational, environmental, and safety related. And as a use these as a reference to enable also testing of new innovations and commercialization of new innovations. And the good thing is that the companies developing these innovations are already placed within the region. And they have been heavily involved in the project since the beginning. I already talked about to connect the northern part of Europe, but if we go to the innovations that I was talking about, we are looking into hybrid power technology that combines rechargeable batteries and LNG. And this is very beneficial when talking about ice-breaking capacity. As Mr. Simpson told before, in these areas we have a lot of ice. And some winters we have a very lot of ice. And we have problems with ice-breaking capacities, both in Finland and Sweden. And one of the ideas of the project is also to diminish the demand of ice-breaking capacity from icebreakers. So we will also look into the remote monitoring on the onboard activities as power generation and distribution that will lower the operational costs and create new service concepts in the area of digitalization and transport management systems. And lucky us, we have Sture in our region, and we will use him to help us develop this transport management system in the phase 2. And the special thing with this ferry and the connection is that it combines people, cargo, special cargo, oversized cargo, dangerous cargo, and also ice-breaking capacity. So it's a very flexible solution we are looking into. To make you all understand the need of being connected, you have all seen this map many times before. And this shows, of course, the corridors in Europe at the moment. We connect via corridors. This is the ScanMed corridor. It goes up to Oslo and Stockholm and Helsinki. And we are also connected via the North Sea Baltic corridor, connecting to Helsinki via Tallinn. But the big problem for us is that everybody seems to believe that the Northern Europe ends here, at the height of Helsinki, Stockholm, and Oslo. But as I told you before, we have both knowledge and raw material that can be of use all over Europe. And we see a lot of future opportunities also in the northern parts of Europe and the Barents region. So I will tell you a bit about that also. We started to develop this midway alignment thing when we got the Botnian corridor into the Annex 1. With the help of Jose, then we started up this midway alignment project, and actually Motorways of the Sea program has helped us coming into the map. Now people know what we're talking about when we're talking about Northern Europe. This is how we look at the map at the moment, which includes all of Europe. And we up here in the north, we have to be connected. And we have to be on the map, otherwise we are out. We are out from funding, we're not eligible for any funding. And we are in need of funding, as everybody else in Europe. So that's why we are so keen on being connected and stay on the TNT map, both regarding rail, road, sea, and ports. But the Finnish government and the Swedish government as well has been a bit lazy on this side, so we have to improve. Well, I was talking about the future opportunities. And this project also is fully in line with the new and recently increasing investments and awakening interest in the Arctic and the Barents region. The new transport route that will open will be supported by an improved transport network in the northern part of Europe. Actually, the Chinese are already planning to start using the Northern Sea route. And within 5-10 years we might have, or I strongly believe that we have new transport patterns over the Northern Sea route. And Japanese people are already investing up in the north. And that has to be looked at as a sign of a bigger interest in this transport route. Because they can save money, time and money, by going the Northern Sea route to Europe, and especially northern part of Europe. And as you see here, we also cooperate a lot with the Norwegian people. We have Arne Langset with us here today, our colleague. And we also want to connect Europe with Norway, and especially Helgeland is very rich in resources and knowledge. And we can also at the same time connect eastwards towards the other big country, neighbor country to Finland, as soon as they get their stuff together. But we have a lot of opportunities in the northern parts of both Norway and Russia and the Northern Sea Route, and Mr. Arne Langset will tell you more about that tomorrow. I won't go into that during my presentation. If we look into the activities, we have been working like crazy people during 2 years. We have done all the initial activities, we have done all the preparatorial studies, and we have developed a concept, and the concept had gone into a design of a ferry that suits, that is specially tailor-made for the Kvarken traffic. And I can assure you, Jose, that we will use all your money. 99.5% is already used, and we have 2 months left, so there will be no money in the bank. But we have achieved a lot, and we have a very great results. And we are starting already to planning the phase 2. That means construction of everything we have planned. And also looking into the traffic management system. But we also have done much more. Not only been focusing on the ferry solution and the traffic transport system. We have also been forming a joint ferry company between Finland and Sweden, Umeå and Vasa, so to speak, that are now taking care of the traffic between these regions. And we have also formed a joint ferry company. And that's quite unique. That's the second in the world that is owned by two different cities in 2 different countries. And I think the ferry company is the first, I'm not sure. But today we also release a press release saying that Vasa and Umeå will form a 3rd common company, the Midway Alignment Ltd, to ensure the phase 2 of the project, to be the one that can do the procurements, to do the applications, and do everything related to the phase 2 of the project. And that, in my opinion, that works in this area is a good sign of maturity of the project. So a lot of things are happening in the northern part of Europe. The partnership is also has been a big thing for us, and a big benefit during the whole process. As you can see, we have a lot of both official organization, but also a lot of private companies, amongst other small companies like Wärtsilä, Volvo, ABB, Komatsu Forest, SSAB, and SCA. Big companies that are depending on this connection. And this has been a good thing for us, and we are now also looking into, when we are talking about forming a new Midway Alignment company, and a special purpose company. A strategic alliance, as Brian told us when he visited us in Vasa, that it can, in the PPPs, it cannot be like that the private companies only get the benefits and the officials and the official authorities takes all the risks. And that's the idea about the special purpose company. So we have also innovations on the financial engineering part of the project. As you can see, we also have a lot of supporters, of course, everyone using the ferry connection. Midway Alignment is much more than a ferry between 2 regions, since it's a transport concept, but this image of the new ferry that we will create together serves as a good symbol for the floating infrastructure connecting us. And although the project is a transport project with a transport link over the Kvarken Strait, I want to show you this picture because it's, as I said, a good symbol for the floating innovative bridge enabling regional and European growth and connecting northern parts of Europe to Europe and Europe to the world. We are now, as I told you, finishing the phase 1 of the project and planning for the phase 2, and I think we are a good example of the fulfillment of the EU transport policy. We're doing what everyone is aiming for. We're shifting transports to rail and sea, increasing cohesion, accessibility, regional development via infrastructure and investments. And in this way we support regional growth, and we do this by using new innovative environmental solutions in these infrastructure solutions. And we do this in a special purpose company, not a PPP, a special purpose company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mathias, for presenting this to us. It brings to me at least the information that very much in Brussels is the focus on the core network corridors. That might be due to my own role there, but that business actually is also outside of these core network corridors, and the motorways of the sea are one of the facilitators to bring in these interests also into the development in Brussels. So thank you very much for sharing this experience with us. I had also another idea for moderating you, which was that when I remembered that 25 years ago at the university I got a diploma as a geographer. And geographer at that time were the people that were running around in Europe and elsewhere and drawing maps in which any little town was the heart of the world. So you can turn the globus as you want. Your town is always the one displayed first, and in fact in your presentation you have shown us that still geographers are doing that and turning the angle of the view from the central European perspective, the German perspective in brackets, I do say so because I'm a German, to the more northern perspective. Now we want to call the next presenter, Eva Perez. She's coming from Valencia, so from the northern angle now to the angle of Spain. Eva is working for the Valencia Port Foundation and will present us the outcomes of the B2MoS project. Eva, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, before I start with my presentation, I'd like to thank the Port Authority of La Spezia and the WiderMoS Consortium for giving us the chance to present some of the results of B2MoS here today. So, over the next few minutes, we would like to give you a general overview of B2MoS. Then we'll focus on the activities that have been carried out. And finally, we'll summarize some of the results that have been obtained so far in some figures. So, B2MoS stands for Business to Motorways of the Seas. It's a project that has been co-funded by the Trans-European Network for Transport under the Motorways of the Sea Call 2012. It started in 2013 and it will end at the end of this year. Our goal has been preparing and adapting business communities and port authority systems to the requirements of Directive 65, providing interoperable electronic documents and messages, whilst boosting the efficiency of door-to-door motorways of the seas, facilitating trade and increasing territorial cohesion. 6 countries have participated in this project: Greece, Slovenia, Italy, Germany, the UK and Spain. Together we represent 25 different port communities and 22 partners and 5 implementing bodies compose our consortium. As you can see, all the different partners cover the door-to-door motorways of the seas chain. We've carried out 5 different activities. In activity 1, we've developed 5 interoperability studies of crucial trade and transport documents. So we focused on giving recommendations on how to improve interoperability for the electronic seaway bill, the electronic commercial and transport invoice, the proof of union status, also how to improve interoperability of sea, rail, combined transport, and the communication between seaports and river ports. All these studies are available, and if any of you would like to get a copy of them, please just get in contact and we will send you these studies. They've also been presented in relevant forums like the TFA-TSI Working Group for Rail Transport. In activity 2, we started identifying problems that are still affecting motorways of the seas today in Europe, in our countries, in the 6 countries that participate in the project. We've done an analysis of the processes, and we've done re-engineering analysis in order to see how all this process could be improved and be made much more efficient. After this, we've done prototyping, so 14 initiatives have been first prototyped, then piloted and demonstrated to our port communities. And the 14 initiatives that have been carried out are the ones that you can see here. So there are 3 trying to facilitate customs declaration compliance. Another 3 have focused on improving information services for our customers, for shippers. 5 of them deal with more efficient commercial transactions and procedures, and 3 of them with the simplification of rail and inland waterways transport procedures. So I would like to show you a video that it's actually one of the initiatives dealing with shunting operations.
At present, freight transport by rail is mainly based on rail connections between ports and their hinterland. Rail transport plays an important role in the door-to-door motorways of the sea transport chain. In rail transport, there are several stakeholders involved in MoS services who need to exchange information between them. The railway undertaking that provides the traction sends the unloading list to the port rail terminals. It is especially important for the port terminal planner to know the length of the train set in advance in order to plan for available spaces in the terminal. The railway undertaking sends the data regarding the train's composition, along with the main characteristics of the train, to the infrastructure administrator and the port infrastructure manager. Trains are frequently classified or divided into many train sets in a third shunting terminal when they're either too long to exit port or when they need to serve several port rail terminals. At present, the port rail terminals are not provided with an updated unloading list for the train sets, with them usually having to be typed manually by terminal staff. This situation has a negative impact on the efficiency of the port rail terminal. The terminals then require more time to manage each train due to the provision of incorrect information regarding the number of containers and the order of each train. As part of the B2MoS project, 2 prototypes have been designed and piloted in Spain and Slovenia, with the aim of providing a solution to the same problem but using different adaptations that suit both of the port situations. A solution has been developed and integrated into the existing rail traffic management system of the Spanish railway undertaking, Continental Rail, in order to inform stakeholders about train sets and the container order in each train operating in the Madrid-Valencia port corridor. In this initiative, Koper and railway operators operating in Koper have defined a data set to be received in a structured way through XML services. Railway operators will also be able to use the Lunaris portal. As a result of the work done, information will now be received prior to the arrival of the train, enabling better planning and therefore greater productivity in port terminals. Additional benefits generated by this initiative are higher wagon occupancy for railway carriers and improved traceability of these cargo flows.
This initiative will help terminals to plan their operations with enough time and improve their efficiency in relation to motorways of the sea, door-to-door transport solutions. The information exchange between public and private stakeholders will increase the efficiency of ports as waterways of the sea gateways.
These solutions will enable faster and smoother planning, based on improved communication among rail operators, terminals and shippers. Consequently, it will simplify the use of motorways of the sea.
Implementing these prototypes instead of continuing to use current procedures would be a profitable initiative for agents involved, resulting in a net present value of €1.1 million over a period of 10 years. The payback period for the investment is less than 1 year. For every euro of TNT co-funding received, €15.30 of net benefits will be generated.
this is one of the 14 initiatives. It's actually one of the smaller, because this only requires 170,000 euros investments, and we've received almost 76,000 euros of co-funding to carry it out, as there are also external partners that are not part of the consortium that have invested in it. In Activity 3, we have prepared pilot actions to assist port authorities and shipping agencies to comply with the new national single windows, maritime single windows. In the case of Germany, DBH in Bremerhaven and DACOSI in Hamburg have participated and dealt directly with the maritime single window in Germany. The same is the case in Spain, where Valencia, Barcelona and Bilbao have also prepared different pilots in order to simplify the transition between the old systems and the new requirements of Directive 65. In the remaining countries, the port community systems have prepared already and are ready to send structured messages with all the information required for the different messages that are included in the directive, and whenever the member states will be ready, they'll just have to switch on and start sending those messages. Communication is key in a project like B2MoS, so we have organized public demonstrations with all the port communities involved in our project. So more than 25 public demonstrations have taken place in Activity 2, and the same has been done in Activity 3. And we've also organized 2 information days, the midterm conference that took place in Valencia in October 2014, and the final Info Day conference that will take place in Athens on 2nd to 4th December 2015. This is actually a joint final event. We will also be doing this communication event together with WiderMoS, so please save the date, and please feel invited to join us in Athens, where we'll present all the results of our project. We've also organized training seminars. 15 training seminars for port communities have taken place in the ports that you can see in these maps. And trying to summarize B2MoS with some figures, 147 companies have been consulted to carry out the interoperability studies in Activity 1. 25 port communities have been involved. 14 initiatives that provide quick win solutions have been piloted in Activity 2. This means 48 prototypes and pilots. 6 partners have participated in each initiative on average, and over 500 members of our port communities have attended the seminars that have been organized so far. So we hope that we'll finish with at least 700 members when we include also the final event. We are finishing with the estimations of the cost-benefit analysis of all the different initiatives that we have piloted. We have some results already. So for instance, the net present value of implementing modern port management information systems in Koper and in Valencia will generate 8.8 million euros. Using electronic archives and incoming classification robots for emails in freight forwarders will generate a net present value of over 4.9 million euros only for the partners in Valencia. And as you can see, the figures are quite large, also taking into consideration that the TEN-T co-funding for this project has been a bit less than 6 million euros. So summing up, B2MoS is about facilitating and bringing business to motorways of the seas, and we believe that we've tried to contribute to this general goal with the work that we have carried out over the last 2 years. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Eva, for this presentation. If you allow me to say so, I find it very good because you use not only the Brussels language, which I usually hear and use myself when I'm there, but also very business-sensitive data, including the value added in monetary terms. I mean, this is really what we are looking for as a result of the project, which is very important to see its applicability and its use, the usefulness of spending the European money. So thank you very much for that. and I hope that somebody will pay me going to Athens to meeting you at the conference. The next presentation, Alexio, sorry, is not you. You will be you will be pressed as the last speaker of the day by the limited time that you have. I will now call Ioannis BAKAS. He is presenting in his role as project manager the PoseidonMed project. Please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ioannis BAKAS, and together we are going to review the PoseidonMed project, which is an LNG bunkering program. But first of all, I would like to express my congratulations on behalf of the PoseidonMed to the WiderMoS for the excellent results and the good job, and to thank La Spezia Port Authority for the hospitality in this very fruitful and interesting final conference. My presentation, just for you to monitor it as well, is being split in 5 small parts, no worries. I will make it as swift as possible, and I will start immediately with the PoseidonMed description. The PoseidonMed was initiated 2 years ago with a proposal that was submitted under the multi-annual work program of 2013 under the shield of the MoS motorways of the sea. It was approved, officially approved in June last year, 2014, and the duration of the program is 2 years. We are close to the end of the program. The program runs until the 31st of December of 2015. The total budget of the project is more than 5 million euros, 50% of which is co-financed by the European Union TEN-T and Motorways of the Sea actions. The ultimate aim of the program is to prepare as much in detail as possible a global plan of infrastructure development in the specific geographic area that we are referring to, so that can use LNG as marine fuel for shipping operations. In order to do this aim, in order to achieve this aim, the PoseidonMed is designing an LNG transportation, distribution, supply network and infrastructure on both sea and land, that will include ships and ports as well, in order to use the LNG in the Eastern Mediterranean cluster as marine fuel. When we are referring to Eastern Mediterranean, we are referring to countries like Greece, Cyprus, Italy, Slovenia, and Croatia. 4 targets of the program. First of all, to study the establishment of the comprehensive LNG network, sources and destinations in the Eastern Mediterranean area, including the Adriatic sea path. Second, to study all necessary activities in order to develop a sustainable market for LNG as marine fuel in the countries mentioned before. Third, to revive shipping in the area, which is also of crucial importance for the Mediterranean shipping activities, and to increase the fleet competitiveness, efficiency, and sustainability. And last, to serve and satisfy EU and TEN-T objectives with respect to emission reduction, increased efficiency, and competitiveness of EU shipping in general. 9 guidelines, very briefly, to reveal the demand of LNG as fuel in the area under consideration, to formulate the transport and distribution network within the area, to estimate the investment requirements in need for the various modes of the network, to demonstrate the financial and technical feasibility through pilot cases on both ports and ships, to demonstrate safety and quantify risk and certify procedures for the technical feasibilities, to suggest adjustments to the national regulatory frameworks in order to adopt LNG as marine fuel, to explore project financing alternatives in order to facilitate the network development, to promote the use of LNG as fuel to stakeholders in order to overcome existing inertia against chains, and this is a major issue that needs to come through. And last, but by no means least, to increase the public awareness as to the potential and environmental, social, and economic benefits by using LNG as marine fuel. The second part is the structure and progress of the action. As every program, PoseidonMed must deliver some results. Those results are going to be accumulated in 8 deliverables, final deliverables. The first deliverable deals with LNG network, supply and demand, and analysis will be forwarded. The second is the legislation and regulatory framework in offshore and onshore installations, and this is a crucial part, a crucial deliverable, because we are facing some bottleneckings regarding national frameworks around the member states, but we are now, thankfully, we are now close to finalize them and to resolve them. The third deliverable is the core technical deliverable, deals with LNG infrastructure and installations, including ports and ships. We are reviewing ports, we are reviewing ships, and we are creating concept designs regarding LNG retrofitting on both existing ships. We are also dealing with new buildings, and we are looking on what it is needed in ports in order to bring LNG as bunker fuel. The next deliverable deals with integrated maritime supply chain, and this is the role of La Spezia to come forward within this program. The fifth deliverable is the risk assessment, which is necessary to be undertaken regarding all other activities in order to ensure that we are on the right track regarding risk of LNG using LNG. Then comes the interesting part, the sustainable financing of LNG. And the last two deliverables are dealing with the society, the local assessment of Northern Adriatic ports, and the last one deals with management and dissemination activities of the whole program. 5 member states are collaborating within this program: the Italian Republic, the Hellenic Republic, the Republic of Cyprus, the Republic of Slovenia, and the Republic of Croatia. We have in total 18 partners. You can see the names in the presentation. Partners include from energy companies to class society, to maritime companies, to port authorities, and to LNG engineering expert companies. Regarding the technical progress of the PoseidonMed, right now we are closing the program. And this means that you may see the percentages through the last 3 years. This means that we are steaming up a lot of effort to close the program, and we will be on track. Apart from the job, the actual job which is running, we do have and we are maintaining a very strong relationship with authorities which are related to the project among the 5 member states. We have established and we're keeping a very good communication with the Cypriot, Greek, and Italian ministries that they are responsible for this activity. We are heading regular interval meetings between the technical management team and the consortium. And of course, as you may know, we achieved to gain the Technical Achievement Award last December in Lloyd's Greek Shipping Awards ceremony of the PoseidonMed. Naturally, we do running some regular PoseidonMed events. For example, we have more than 5 interviews on TV and web channels. We have more than 15 interviews and references in the press and online portals. We have more than 15 participations at conferences all around Europe. So far, we arranged 8 to be exact, not 7, because the last workshop was arranged the day before here in this auditorium with our Italian partners. We are scheduling 2 grand events to take place, the Poseidon Stakeholders Conference in Athens and the NAPA Conference in Koper. And of course, we are scheduling the grand closing event for the conclusion that is scheduled for the end of this year. Let's have a brief look at the preliminary results of the study. I will deal only with PÉREZ because PÉREZ is considered the hub port of the program. Hub port means that PÉREZ is playing the role of receiving LNG cargoes and then distributed to the rest of the ports within the program in consideration. Our methodology produced those results that you can see. We do expect a slow beginning. We expect only 6 ships to be bunkered with LNG by 2020. But afterwards, we do expect some acceleration on this usage. Please note that those are not optimistic results. I would say that those are more pessimistic results, and we will be most happy to see that these results are greater than those anticipated. This is now what the geographic area of the program is considering regarding Greece, Cyprus, and Italy, together with Croatia and Slovenia. PÉREZ will be used as a hub port, and then cargoes will be distributed to main satellite ports like Limassol, La Spezia, Venice, Trieste, Koper, Rijeka, and Patra. And the satellite ports are some Greek inner ports that they will receive some minor LNG cargoes for internal maritime use. Regarding the designs now that I told you before in Activity 3, we are looking on ships as well as ports. Focusing on ships, we are dealing on conceptual designs on how to retrofit existing ships in order to burn LNG. And those ships have been carefully selected from a wide number of ships available in order to accommodate the needs of the program. Particularly, you may see a large cruise ferry, a large ROPAX, a high-speed catamaran ferry, a pure car carrier, and a conventional car ferry, which currently operates in the Greek waters. All of these ships are candidate vessels for LNG retrofits, and at the moment we are concluding on the conceptual design of what does it mean. It means additional, of course, additional effort in bringing the engines to the status of burning LNG, additional equipment, and additional designs. As an example of what has been created as a record, you may see the cover page of a record of design screening, which was done in collaboration with our class partner, Lloyd's Register. And this screening includes the technical assessment of the LNG retrofit approach. Of course, we need to establish a supply chain. And this supply chain mainly includes bunker vessels and LNG trucks that carry the LNG from tanks to the end users. We are starting with a small number of LNG trucks and one small bunker vessels. And as you may see, we adding, according to the need, additional trucks and additional bunker vessels. Regarding the ports, which is very obvious, include a port infrastructure that consisting of fixed terminals, bunker ships, and tank trucks, together with pipelines whenever this is applicable. The following recommendations have been made by the program as regards to logistical aspects on suitable bunkering solutions. We have included in our methodology the main bunker method, that is ship-to-ship. We have also included and analyzed the truck-to-ship bunkering solution. Is going to be used for smaller LNG cargoes and for smaller vessels. And we also considered the terminal-to-a-ship via pipeline, which at the moment is not going to be detailed, described and analyzed. Of keen interest for the program are the bunker vessels. The bunker vessels are considering as port infrastructure because they do play the link role between the tank and the end user. It's a very crucial role, and we need to carefully design the appropriate LNG tanker vessels for the specific area and the specific needs. We have three roles for these small tankers. The first role is the typical port bunkering, as we may all know about. The second role is to feed Greek ports from Revithousa. Revithousa is the LNG terminal located next to PÉREZ port, where cargoes of LNG will arrive from any available source. So from this point, larger LNG tankers will feed the Greek ports, the secondary Greek ports in question. And then we have also the last team, the last part of LNG vessels, that is to feed the larger ports in Cyprus, Croatia and Italy. Over there we are talking about capacities close to 30,000 cubic meters, which now we do not speak about a typical bunker vessel, but we do speak about a typical LNG carrier. The project studies at the moment the conceptual design of LNG bunker vessels, as I briefed you before, of various capacities between 500 and 30,000 cubic meters. The port of Piraeus, which is going to be the hub port, it's a very straightforward solution, no land infrastructure. We are going to use only bunker vessels and LNG trucks to supply smaller capacities to high-speed catamaran. The ports of Limassol and La Spezia, the LNG import is to be done by using LNG feeder tankers from Piraeus of capacities between 20 to 30,000 cubic meters. And from port land infrastructure point of view, we do expect to use land trucks, distribution pipelines, and LNG trucks in both ports. For the rest of the ports, the Greek ports, as I mentioned before, we are not going to analyze them in detail. We are initially addressed only these needs. The last part is how PoseidonMed can play a role in linking the core network corridors. I'm not going to be an exception. I'm going to use this famous map again. And I need to tell you there that prior to the construction phase of the PoseidonMed, we need to establish and put in place a tool that will enable the interoperability between the various transport nodes, sea and land, already under evaluation and progress in the European Union. This corridor management platform will, of course, improve the efficiency, quality, and integration of processes, as well as the distribution of information between the different actions in the LNG supply chain. And we do need synergies. We do need synergies with other programs in order to establish a sustainable and operational and safe LNG network as a bunker fuel for the maritime industry. La Spezia. La Spezia plays the key role because it is the link of the two projects. La Spezia participates in both programs, in WiderMoS and in PoseidonMed. And as we all know, the port is linked with the dry port of Meltso, which was analyzed previously during this session. And the port is part of the 62 South European LNG refueling points, according to the directive of the European Parliament, number 18 of 2013. And La Spezia is gaining a significant experience regarding the total LNG supply chain and the respective SWOT analysis that they are crucially and essential to establish a steady and unobstructed supply system of LNG as marine fuel. So, the PoseidonMed, let's sum up. The PoseidonMed is driving towards a more economical and environmental friendly way of maritime transportation in the region of Mediterranean by preparing the holistic solution of infrastructure so that LNG can be embraced as marine fuel. WiderMoS is developing IT tools in order to ensure a strong integration between maritime and core network corridors, thereby solving a specific set of bottlenecks currently jeopardizing interoperability between sea and land-based transport. Since La Spezia is partner to both programs, we believe that La Spezia will strongly contribute to the reinforcement of the connection between short-sea shipping services and to developing new maritime links. The PoseidonMed experience allows La Spezia to identify and analyze a complete LNG logistic chain that will include all different means available of transportation, plus new organization of LNG-based freight flows to the dry port and inlet terminal of Meltso. We saw previously during this day some extremely interesting presentations on the tools, the IT tools that they were developed within the WiderMoS case. And we are pretty sure that these models can be also used in the LNG usage of cargoes. And based on the fact that bunkering with LNG is a very precise and accurate procedure, we do need tools, IT tools, that they will contribute to the success of the bunkering. This means that the tools that WiderMoS has developed might also be used PoseidonMed, and PoseidonMed can give the experience of LNG, of how to treat the bunkering of LNG to WiderMoS in order to adapt the IT models. So this is all actually. I would like once again to congratulate the WiderMoS team for the wonderful job, and I hope to see you in Athens for our final conference as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ioannis. You have not only brought our attention to another area of Europe, so thank you for that from a geographical perspective, but you have also shown to us that there is an implementation change required in order to put a greener transportation on the floor and in practice. And I wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
To do this on a voluntary terms, because we should not forget that in the Baltic Sea we had the legal framework accompanying with technical solutions and with EU funding for the ships and the infrastructures, and in the East Med currently we do not have the legal framework. We only have volunteers who are investing and seeing what they can do under this condition. So, Alexio, you are the leader of the entire day. It's up to you. So, to gain 15 minutes now.
No, it will be less than that. And first, there is a chocolate box here that some of the speakers missed here. So, or it's for you it's for me to survive. Okay, quickly. First, on behalf of the Port of Koper, that is the coordinator of this project, Maša, ČERTALIC, that she's the coordinator, is sick, so she couldn't be here. So I have the pleasure to briefly introduce you the Fresh Food Corridor project. It's very easy. The concept is very easy. We want to shift reefer containers from road to rail. And this is using a full integrated logistic chain moving from Middle East to North Europe. So the concept is very easy. Using different pillars, using different things that I'm going to explain briefly, but the concept is very easy. Move containers, reefer containers from road to rail. And many of you are experts on logistics, and you know quite well that that's quite difficult to do it, because otherwise should have already been there. But nevertheless, that's the overall aim of the project. Build and operate a logistic corridor of refrigerated and frozen goods from East Basin by 2018. So you know why, many of you know why there are a number of constraints in using reefer containers on train, in terms of cost, in terms of critical mass, in terms of balancing the two ways going up and down, or in the logistic chain, and also some weaknesses in the in the technology to provide energy for reefers. That's also something in which we will work on. So we want to deliver a new chain, including the fact that shortening delivery times of refrigerated goods, we might have new trade challenges between Europe and Middle East, because there will be new let's say, possibilities for new vegetables or fruits to be on our tables in less time and with less costs. Obviously, there are also some socio-economic benefits in it, like such as reducing emissions and obviously improving regional trade. So the pillars are very clear. First, logistic. We need to change a bit the logistic of reefer containers in order to be streamlined and to be attractive from not only from the logistic point of view in itself, but obviously from the cost point of view, because at the very end of the game, someone should buy vegetables or fruits, whatever, and should buy at the same cost or lower cost from comparing how it is transported now. And the technology, we are going to use a new technology that is coming out of the research, that is able to provide energy to reefer containers in a different way, and in principle it is able to overcome the constraint in the length of the train, in terms of length from origin to destination, I mean, in order to have a longer reefer trains comparing to the actual situation. And obviously, it's not only because we are talking about this IT integration in WiderMoS, we need to have an integrated IT environment, an information pipeline, a mirror image between Middle East and Europe, and that should be connecting the different actors and obviously compliant with the rules we have in Europe, such as the Directive 65 or the e-customs regulation that have been mentioned today. This is quite easy to understand. This is the situation as it is now. Most of the cargo from from the Middle East are going through 3 main gateways in the Med. The Foss, Marseille Foss in France, Venice, and in Italy, and Koper in Slovenia. And then truck are used to reach northern Europe. In some cases, they use also the way to Rotterdam and Antwerp, and they go down by truck again. It's not going. It's not going on anymore. Okay. So what we want to do is to change this using again the same gateways with some let's say adjustments in the gateways in order to be more attractive for reefers, and then to go by train, by block trains to be precise, to the north of Europe. This is what is going to be in Koper, and these are also some of the partners involved in this specific chain. This is what could be in Venice, again with the same shipping line and a different rail company that will do the inland part of the chain. And this is Marseille Foss, again with different actors involved. The concept is, it will be demonstrated in 3 corridors, but we have a bit more on that. We have also a first connection concerning IT and process connection concerning Egypt and Cyprus. It's part of this project, so meaning a specific pilot will be connecting Egypt and Cyprus. And a specific feasibility study will be realized in order to exploit the concept of the fresh food using also the Port of La Spezia as a gateway. It's also the Port of La Spezia is part of this project. It's quite important to stress at the very end that this is the first project in which TEN-T is opening up to non-EU countries, because specifically we have a bunch of good partners in the Middle East, and specifically from Israel. And this is really the first time, and this is trying to have this mirroring of the Trans-European network to non-EU countries. So that's challenging. That's very, let's say, very strategic in terms also of regional cooperation. That's more than understandable. It's challenging. It is already started, the project. The conceptual phase is gone, it's over, and 2 pilot seasons is going to happen this season in terms of fruit and vegetables, and the next in between 2015 and 16, and the next one will be 16, 17. So in few months we will be already able to present some results. And I think that's it for today. It was a very long day, but nevertheless, I think it was very, very, very good. And so I leave the closing statement to Uwe, and then to Federica, just to remind where we have to be in a couple of hours for the dinner. Okay, thanks.
Good. So a resume is quite fast because you have seen all that, Alexei. I learned a lot today. Thank you for the presenters, for the organizers. The basic thing is, it is not only sufficient to do things good, but also to speak about this. So to share the good experiences, the good practices with others. That is the purpose of a conference. So thank you for that. And I also learned that the estimated time of arrival tool developed by Combiverkehr can also be applied to conferences, because in the mid of the conference I made an estimation when we should end, and it is exactly 6:15. So fine with the estimation time of arrival tool. And I hand over to Federica to share with us some thoughts about the further program of the day, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. And so thank you for all the speakers of the first day of the final conference. It's a very fruitful day, I think, so thank you very much. We have the dinner at 8:30 in the Hotel Europa in Lerici. We have the bus outside here, so enjoy the dinner. So we'll see you later. Thank you, bye-bye. That's good, no. Informal. Okay, thanks.
More or less informal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.